Hey guys, so I recently found out about Azra Games from the WolvesDAO. I also saw them on Twitter with Soul Big Brain shouting them out. So I decided to do some research and some digging, and basically what I found was really interesting. I wanted to share it with you guys in this video and just to essentially show you why you should get involved in their Discord and try to really get on their whitelist if you can. So what is Azra Games? Azra Games is a play-to-earn studio that's going to release their first game called Arcanas. So that's their first project. And Arcanas is essentially a RPG style combat arena game. And you are basically there. It's an extremely early stage in this game, right? So this is probably a game that won't come out for like a couple of years, right? However, what really caught my attention about Azra Games, the studio, as well as the game, is the team, right? So they basically have an incredibly powerful team here that I think is one of the most impressive teams I have seen in the space. And one of the unique things is, while I do see a lot of impressive games in the space, I see very few of them that have had such extensive experience working together as a team. So I'm going to make a major exception here, and with this project, I'm covering a project that has no gameplay footage. They barely have any concept art. They barely have any information out there on the project, and I'm going to cover them just because the team is so damn exceptional that I'm willing to get involved to just make sure that I can get in early on whatever they build out. Now, one thing that I do want to say before we jump into the team is it's pretty unclear what blockchain they'll be on right now. The team is still deciding. They're looking at Solana, they're looking at Near, they're looking at Polygon. So they've really just been kind of building some hype around the project, but they're still deciding which blockchain is going to be the blockchain they're going to work on. So keep that in mind. Now let's get right into the team. And the team is led by Mark Otero. So he basically has an incredibly fascinating history, right? So I'm going to actually show you his LinkedIn. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so bullish on this project, is their founder has one of the most unique backgrounds I've ever seen for a gaming crypto founder. And I'm going to show you what that is. So first of all, with Mark, right, he has a really interesting background where he got a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, right? And then he got a Master's in Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence. And then he got an MBA in marketing at UC Davis, right? So he has a very strong computer science and AI background. But then let's look at his work history, right? So this is where things get really interesting. So this is pretty unclear. Then he worked 5 years at Franklin Templeton Investments Services. So he was a department manager. He worked in information services, business intelligence, and stats, right? So he started out in the finance space, right? And then after 5 years in the finance space, he built a gaming studio called ClickNation. And ClickNation built games like Superhero City and Age of Champions. They scaled to around 70 creative professionals. And what then happened is Electronic Arts acquired ClickNations. So he's already building games. EA acquired them. And with EA, he's basically had full operational responsibility for Capital Games, which I believe is ClickNation rebranded. And Capital Games is where he built Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which is an EA game that has generated, I believe, over $1 billion in revenue, right? Pretty insane. It's a mobile kind of free-to-play game. You can see that if we look at their revenue, yeah, $1.4 billion. So he literally built one of EA's most profitable games, and this is essentially a mobile game that's just done incredibly well. He's also built a bunch of other games, such as Heroes of Dragon Age, Supreme Heroes, and then obviously at ClickNation, he built a bunch of games as well. So he did that for 4 years. So he has 7 years of gaming industry experience where he absolutely crushed it as a founder and manager, basically. Then what he did is he built a fund called Alice Capital. So it's a quant team, and it's essentially what they said is Mark's success in gaming was attributable to capitalizing on outlying data patterns and responsive metrics. And then they took that same thinking pattern, right, which is very mathematical, analytical approach to gaming, and they pushed that towards the whole trading market, and they have been able to generate 36% annualized ROI, which is absolutely insane, and 7 straight positive ROI quarters. So this guy, he has this unique blend of finance, computer science, and gaming, which is perfect for crypto gaming, because crypto gaming essentially, finance is a big part of it, right? With the whole tokens and tokenomics and in-game economies. So that's why I'm so bullish on this project. Is just the founders are freaking incredible. Now, I'll quickly cover the other guys on the project. So Sunny is their chief operating officer. So he's also an experienced entrepreneur. His biggest win was he built Vader, which got, he built, so he built Requested. So he was the CEO at Requested for 2 years. They got acquired by Vader, where he worked as chief marketing officer at Vader. And then he had a bunch of other marketing entrepreneur roles. He was an entrepreneur in residence at Sparrow Ventures. So he basically would be helping other startups at a VC firm. So he'd help a VC firm help their startups with that. And yeah, he's got extensive experience with operations. So that's also very impressive. Their game director Michael Noriega, has over 20 years of experience. Now, keep in mind, something that you'll notice as a trend if you look at their team is Michael, for example, right? Okay, so he's got an incredible amount of experience in the software engineering industry and then EA, but he essentially worked directly with Mark. So all these guys that Mark is bringing to this team, many of these guys have been people that he worked with at EA or at his first gaming studio. Even Nathaniel Fong, who's their design director, I believe he also worked at EA. So that's something that's unique, because you could have a team of really excellent people, but if they don't have experience working together, there's still that ambiguity of whether it's going to be a good fit. A lot of times these organizations that are very successful, it's very hard to just take the individuals out and then recombine them with other individuals from another successful organization, just because the organization itself is a part of it. So when you have a bunch of people that have worked together for years and now they're working on another new project. So as you can see over here, Nathaniel as well, he worked at EA, right? We worked with Mark. So the fact that I think something like 60 or 70% of these guys have all worked together on a project before is very bullish. And if you look at their advisors, they have some great advisors. Ko Kim, she's the same advisor. She advised Panzer Dogs, which obviously is a project that's been doing really well. Sol Big Brain, the #1 influencer in the Solana space, a guy I actually listened to, one of the Solana influencers I trust. And then there's a bunch of other great advisors as well in there. Now guys, I've talked about the team for like 7-8 minutes. You get the idea, right? Like all of these guys are stacked and they've worked together, so they have the chemistry to work together and build something out. Now let's talk about the first project, which is Arcanas. So Arcanas is essentially this RPG game where their main focus is on fun, right? So their first focus is core games for core gamers. They're really focused on gameplay, making it fun. One of the philosophies they have is they're focused on time to fun. And this is a really important part of making games work, is players must have their first hit of dopamine, of fun, as soon as possible. If you look at really successful games, they make it really easy for you to have fun as soon as possible. And they also want to give their first NFT to players as soon as possible. Now, the game style that they're going for in terms of the project is they're aiming for a higher level of quality. They're aiming for something that's basically completely unique style as compared to their previous games, right? So with their previous games, they did a lot of mobile games. They are actually focused on building a game that's gonna be web-based to start and then expand out to mobile. They're focused on RPGs mainly, as that's what they have the most experience with, and they want to introduce a player versus player element as well, which is vital for a blockchain game in my opinion, because that allows a whole economy to be created around that player versus player side. Now, what they're saying is a beta release or an early version should be out in 2023. So this is an ambitious project. This is a long-term project. So even if they do release the NFT collection, you're probably not going to see the real rewards for that for a couple of years. So if you do buy in when they do release the NFT collection, keep that in mind. This is a long-term play. Now, they did have a recent AMA where they went over some of their thoughts on how they would create an in-game economy. They want to really differentiate between active participants, which are players who are playing the game, are very heavily involved, and passive participants, which are token and NFT holders. And they want to ensure both sides of these have an engaging experience. Both sides of these can actually win in the game and earn from the game as well. So let's talk about the NFT collection, right? The concept art, and it's really early, so again, this is very, very early. This is what they're kind of looking at in terms of the prototyping for the NFT collection, right? So it's very much still like early stages, even for their NFT collection, right? They don't have a collection size, they don't have a collection price, they don't have a collection date, but there is a collection coming. And if you get involved in their Discord and kind of are just involved in their community, you have a high chance of getting whitelisted, right? Because it is so early. So they have said the NFTs will have in-game utility and advantages, not a huge advantage, but they'll have a big role to play in the game as well as the lore of this project. Speaking of lore, they have 2 full-time lore masters that are currently anonymous, but they're going to reveal them at a later point. This is massively important because I've noticed this in the gaming industry, especially in the crypto gaming industries. Lore is not given the respect it needs. You actually need full-time lore masters who can build an engaging world that people actually want to be involved with and play and spend hundreds of hours on. Now, let's quickly talk about a few other details. So they will have a token, the Azra token. They will have an IDO, which will come after the NFTs. The team will have a longer than usual vesting schedule. This is something they were very clear on. Now, they haven't given out an exact vesting schedule, but it seems like they're very clear on the fact that they're not going to allow people to start cashing out on their tokens early on, right? A lot of these gaming crypto projects, they end up being horrible deals for the retail investors because the teams have such aggressive vesting schedules, and VCs as well. The long-term vision with what they're trying to do with Azra Games and Arcanas is to actually have multiple games, as they are focused on being a gaming studio, right? And obviously they'll build their first game, but their plan is to have basically be a blockchain gaming studio. They're building everything to be tools-based, so other game studios can basically use their tech, right? Because they've obviously had such experience in the gaming industry with the same people, right? Like they know what the fact that building the tech behind gaming can often be very lucrative as well and can really add a lot of value to their ecosystem. And it sounds like there's potential for this Azra token to be used in multiple games, so it's kind of an overall expanding ecosystem. So in terms of tokenomics, they are putting a lot of thought into it, and especially about the rewards and the sinks, because there has to be a burning mechanism. Their tokenomics head is a quant, which is a great background for somebody who's working on something like tokenomics. And they also have, and the other piece of information I found really fascinating is they're basically building this tournament system where they essentially, when they started out, they would build these tournament-based games with grand prizes, right? And that would really create this competitive side of things that would really keep players engaged and get people really involved into the ecosystem. So that's something that's in their DNA, and that's something they want to build into this project as well. So they're talking about even players or DAOs owning tournaments or having their own tournaments, and it seems like tournaments will be a big part of this ecosystem. So guys, this is a quick little video just letting you in on the alpha. My suggestion is get involved in their Discord. I'll post a link below. Start talking to them, start getting involved with the team, learn about this project, because with projects like this where you have a really A+ team and they're starting their marketing now, it's really important to just get involved early, just so that you can get in on their NFT sales. And ultimately this is a very long-term play, right? They've made it clear this is going to take years. So this isn't for you if you're looking for a quick flip, but I'm personally really curious about what these guys do. This is definitely one of the projects I'm going to be keeping a close eye on in terms of what's going to take Solana gaming to the next level. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let me know what other projects you'd like me to cover. I love covering utility and gaming-based projects, so let me know.